on a beautiful fall day. Temperature shot up yesterday up into the 70s Fahrenheit. So what's that, about 14, 16 maybe, maybe 16 Celsius, somewhere around there. Lovely day, but I was kind of tied up all day yesterday, so no broadcast yesterday. It was election day here in the United States, and as judge of elections, I was tied up from 5 o'clock in the morning until 11:30 after I finished taking the returns down to the county board of elections and got home last night. It's this time of year. It's pretty dangerous out there on the highways, lots of deer. And last night I take the highway and go around and pay the toll because it's a wider road with better visibility, watching deer spring out of the woods, and less chance for deer to catch on a blind curve. And then, you get in an accident, get injured, hit the deer, or, God forbid, something serious happen to you or the deer or to your car. So I took the turnpike and came back. I got back about 11:30 last night. I get into the story here that I'm doing this live stream for in just a moment, but we had an election, and it's just like South Africa and many other places. Turnout was very low. Just a little over 20% of the people, the 5,000 people in my district, actually showed up to vote. So that's kind of sad, but that's the reality we live in. People don't participate fully in their opportunity to have a say in what happens in their governance. We even had an office, rather important office for the county auditor. No one on the ballot last night, so you could have written your name down and you might be the auditor today. Yeah, that's how sad things have become in politics and lack of participation. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Bongi Mbonambi and the incident that just won't go. In fact, stick with me for a moment, folks. Don't run off. I'm going to get my cowboy. See a little better, or my South Africa hat. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Still with me? Anybody leave? Let's see if the numbers went up or down. Numbers went down, so I guess I need to hang around. Anyway, that's a little bit better. So if you can't see my eyes, my apologies, but I can't see anything, so I can put this hat on. Anyway, sun's kind of brutal out here. So yeah, Bongi Mbonambi, the fallout from Bongi Mbonambi, the allegation by Tom Curry seems to continue. Now, before we get any further, is there anything to this story? Or is this just mainstream media looking for attention, viewership, and clicks? And by that extension, you could ask the same question of me. Is this just me looking for clicks and attention? Well, sure. No, I'm covering it because the media is covering it. And it's a topic that won't go away. So this incident, of course, for most of us, we know what happened here. In the semifinal against England, Tom Curry approached the official, and it was... he approached the official. It was Ben O'Keefe, and he said, "Hey, what am I supposed to do?" He called me a white. Word begins with a C. It's a rather vulgar term. He said he called me that, and O'Keefe said nothing. Basically, let me handle it, and that was the right approach. So afterwards, World Rugby got in a complaint from the English Rugby Union. England complained and said that Tom Curry was verbally insulted with racist epithet. Now, a lot of South Africans started listening to the tape, and people jumped on both sides of the fence to defend Bongi, to attack Bongi, to defend Tom Curry, to attack him. Listen, what happened there is Curry approached the official. He said that. Then England filed a formal complaint. Now, if anything here, at this point, at that stage, when England filed a formal complaint, in my view, the issue is no longer with Bongi or with Tom Curry or Tom Curry's allegation. At that stage, it's a England Rugby Union issue. And England Rugby Union, if in fact Bongi Mbonambi was saying "Vit kant, wat ek kant," he was saying that in Afrikaans, which by all accounts appears to be the case, then England did not do its due diligence, the England Rugby Union, and they're the ones who bring discredit and shame upon the game of rugby. Look, Tom Curry, you can like him, dislike him. I don't know his motivation. World Rugby said there's no malicious intent, and it was a good faith allegation on his part, and I'll accept that. Tom Curry, for his part, hasn't spoken out about this. I suspect that he might be a little bit embarrassed about how he misunderstood. I don't know. That's my suspicion. If, in fact, that's the case, that would explain why explain why Tom Curry hasn't anything to say. But you really can't win in this. And this is the problem when people resort to name calling. You know, when people falsely call people white supremacists, when people falsely call people racist, when people claim that only white people can be racist, when in fact any idiot can be a racist. You know, racism, of course, I'll define it for folks who seem to have difficulty. It's not when your feelings are hurt. That's not racism. It's not when you don't finish first. That's not racism. It's not you didn't get a job. That's not racism. Or you didn't get a uni. Racism is when one person believes that a different group of people based on their skin pigmentation are different and or inferior, and therefore take action for their advantage or against them. That's racism. That's the bottom line here. So, in worst case, if Bongi Mbonambi had actually said what Tom Curry believed he said, it would have been insulting, and that should have been the end of it, a discussion, a handshake between the two. But I blame the English Rugby Union, not Tom Curry and not Bongi Mbonambi. So what's the deal here? So Bongi hasn't said anything. I mean, the Springboks, he waited out, he sweated out a couple days whether he was even going to be able to play in the final. And in the end, he was able to go and play in the final after World Rugby took an interminable amount of time, from Saturday night to Sunday to Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, before they finally issued an opinion saying that there wasn't sufficient evidence. People keep saying Bongi's found innocent. Yes and no. They found insufficient evidence to substantiate Tom Curry's allegation. That's the bottom line. So, but Bongi probably very well is innocent. The problem is that this sort of thing just brings shame to the game. And even when you're innocent, you know, it's like Trump and Charlottesville. The media endlessly lying about Trump, you know, propping up right-wing extremists, when in fact he never said any such thing. The media are out and out lying, scumbag, hate, festering cesspools of disgusting human bile. That's what they are. They took his comments completely out of context. They cut over half of what he said, in which he remonstrated those who misbehaved that day in Charlottesville. And then they claimed he never disavowed the white supremacists or whether, which is an outright lie. Donald Trump that day alone in the media, in public forums, 3 times that day in 3 different appearances, disavowed and called out white supremacists. The media hid that. Idiots around the United States and around the world believe what they want to believe because they're emotional monkeys, children who don't have the capacity to think intellectually. And I'm talking about people of all colors before little hate wankers start going, whoa, we call people monkeys. Of course, people have lack of intelligence. They can't accomplish things. They're not very bright. And those people are white, black, and brown. So just like they lied about Trump, that damage is done, and people believe what they want to believe. My personal assessment, I listened to the audio. I can't say for 100%, but again, back to the Bongi situation, I believe Bongi was saying, Vit cunt. He was talking about the white scene, the white side, the uniforms that the England side were wearing. Anyway, so does Bongi have a right to speak out? Of course he does. Should Bongi speak out? Now, this one's more complicated, ladies and gentlemen. I say it's more complicated for the following reason. Here's the deal. Do we just let sleeping dogs lie? If someone calls you a name, you know, you're an arse, you know, Sie sind den Esel, you know, call people names like that. You can let sleeping dogs lie. But when someone lays an allegation or a charge as fundamentally caustic as calling someone a racist, a white supremacist, a black supremacist, which will cripple so many people are, tens of millions of people around the world. Unfortunately, they have access to social media, and they go on there and their little emotion-fueled rage and respond to it. So at some point, it's perfectly right, in my view, for Bongi to respond to it, but it does keep the situation alive. It's unfortunate that England and South Africa don't have a test match in the next month or 2 or something like that. Then, you know, this could be settled and we could get past it by, you know, Tom Curry and England Rugby approaching South African Rugby Union and Bongi Mbonambi saying, listen, we accept that maybe we misunderstood, and what we'd like is for Tom and Bongi to get a chance to meet, you know, on the pitch before the game starts, go shake hands, maybe give a hug and wave to the crowd sort of thing and say, hey, this is past us, bygones be bygones. That would be the right way, but England and South Africa don't have a match anytime soon. So unless Bongi is in a game somewhere with a side playing against Tom Curry, which isn't going to happen because Curry's in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, and Bongi is playing for the Sharks now, I think. I'm not sure, but anyway, he plays in URC, then they're not going to meet. So this will fester. And this is the problem with these sort of things. This was handled very poorly by the England Rugby Union. In my view, absolutely appallingly handled by England Rugby Union. Tom Curry, I don't know what prompted him. Maybe he actually believed that, and it pissed him off, and rightly so. He called a name like that, and so he went up. But the England side, he was. First off, he was wrong. Okay. Whether your feelings are hurt or you were offended by something that said, he's completely wrong. He had no business not being the captain, approaching Ben O'Keefe and making that statement. He should have gone to his captain saying, "Listen, man, that guy called me a white, talk to the official, man. We can't let that happen." But he was emotionally charged at the time, so it's understandable. But anyway, so he has said nothing about it since then. I think that speaks volumes about what was probably likely perceived incorrectly. But yesterday, well, first off, World Rugby did review this, as I said, the audio and the video of that, and they said there was insufficient evidence. So Curry got to play in the bronze medal game. England won the bronze medal. And then Bongi Mbonambi got to play, but of course we all remember what happened. Shannon Frizzell did a neck roll on him, spun around and landed on his lower body and his leg and injured him. He lasted 2 minutes 27 seconds in a final that we waited almost a week to find out if he was even going to be able to play. And of course Dion Fourie came in and did a bang-up job. Dion Fourie. Love that guy. Anyway, but yesterday, the 7th of November 2023, Bongi Mbonambi came out and labeled England as unprofessional after the allegations that he was cleared of. Now, notice that he labeled England unprofessional, not Tom Curry. And I think speaking out, I think Bongi Mbonambi and I are in the same boat on this. We are blaming England Rugby Union because England Rugby Union didn't do its due diligence and made allegations and has not backed down from that. At some point, if they're wrong, but this leaves this thing hanging out there that England Rugby Union actually honestly believes that Bongi Mbonambi made a racial epithet when they have no evidence of it. If they're hard on, then they should come out and say that we've also heard the audio and we stand by our position. And that means it won't go away. But he said it all happened because Tom Curry failed to realize that he was speaking in Afrikaans. Now we see lots of memes out there. Fitta cunt, fat cunt, and all kinds of other cunts. My cunt, Springboks cunt. It's that's all over the place. People are having a lot of fun with it, and also people talking about how arrogant England is because they think the only language people speak is English. Well, they're not arrogant in that respect. They don't think the only language people speak are English. England conquered the world. Of course, people speak thousands of languages. So that's just silly too. But the bottom line here is that England Rugby Union, I blame them, and he labels them as unprofessional. I would say that maybe unprofessional is probably a better term by Bongi, but I would have said juvenile. I would have said England Rugby Union are juvenile. But listen, all this aside, England is a dirty team. I thought they'd be better under Eddie Jones, but they weren't. Under the Eddie Jones era, the team became dirtier and dirtier with players knocking players down away from the ball, attacking players not with the ball, gouging players, grabbing players' crotches. Very dirty stuff happening as a team. And, World Rugby needs to pay close attention to England's behavior. And that has nothing to do with Tom Curry. Just throwing that out there because it's a statement of fact. Yep. Again, World Rugby found insufficient evidence actually ever said that. Yeah, he said, this is what Bongi said. He said, I think it's a very sad thing when you live in a first world country, England, you think the rest of the world speaks English. Well, okay, Bongi, that's unfortunate. Look, it's your privilege, your prerogative to speak out against this. Is it wise? Given the fact that you're basically being called a racist, I think it is wise for you to put something on the record. I have no objection to that. But making that silly, calling them unprofessional, that's cool. But, making that silly little bigotry, that's bigotry right there. Because they live in a first world country, you think the rest of the world speaks English. That's a bit juvenile. But look, Bongi was wrong, so I understand where he's coming from. He said it was unprofessional on their part. They could have gone on a website and looked for an English dictionary and looked for the word in Afrikaans. Well, what better would have happened is if England Rugby had talked to Rassie Erasmus, Jacques Nienaber, or South African Rugby Union. Just go right to South African Rugby and say, listen, we're looking at filing a complaint tomorrow about this. Would you look at it? Give us your thoughts. That would have been the smarter thing. The adults in the room, maybe, England Rugby Union goes to Saru after it happens that night, contacts them real quick. Hey, listen, guys, we're not happy about, Bongi Mbonambi calling, Tom Curry names during the game. And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, here, this place. And then watch the tape, and then maybe, somebody can say, no, you misunderstood. He's speaking off Afrikaans. That's not. That would have been the adult way to handle this, but that's not how it unfolded. He said people understood in South Africa, but obviously their side was misunderstood. No, their side misunderstood. Anyway, but for his part, head coach Steve Borthwick of England is arguing that Curry was denied a fair hearing. So England is sticking to it. Now, of course, Sarah says they have absolute faith in the honesty and integrity of Bongi Mbonambi. Here's the other thing gets lost in all of this. Think about this for a second. Of course, for the hate wanker who makes false allegations against me and all the slimy liberal leftists, particularly whites, who call white South Africans racist just because they don't believe in communism. It doesn't make you a racist. It makes you a smart person. But notice how most of the people who came out and defended Bongi Mbonambi from the very beginning were whites, white South Africans. I defended Bongi as soon as I heard the audio, after I assessed it. I'm not South African, obviously, but most of the people who vociferously defended him, his former players, coaches who came out and said, listen, this guy is, they're nonsense. There's no way he says something like this. That's not his character. They're all white folks. But you know what? Of course, in the bank of, of racial stupidity, nobody gets credit for that, especially if they're white, defending Bongi Mbonambi. I still get morons who come onto my content and say that, are you gonna apologize to Siya Kolisi? I'm like, apologize to Siya Kolisi for what? You said Siya Kolisi was a terrible, terrible captain during the British and Irish Lions series 2 years ago. Yeah, I did. He was ineffective, but I also caveated that with context and said that he was ignored by Nick Berry and other officials in those matches, and they disrespected him, borderline bigotry, maybe even racism. But he was ineffective as a captain in that series, I said. Absolutely. I've also criticized his play on a couple of occasions last year, but more, not even equally, more often I've praised Siya Kolisi's play and his captaincy. So, people like to be aggrieved. It's the grievance culture. It's the grievance society. They like to feel aggrieved of everything. Especially if you are a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male. Oh, you are just the target of the world. So anyway, I'm not complaining about myself. I'm just saying that these people just pick points of light. So, again, back to the point here. Bongi Mbonambi has every right to respond to this allegation, but does this just throw more fuel on the fire? That's the question. Are we just throwing fuel on the fire at this stage? Are we just keeping a story alive that's not a story? Well, it is a story because the words are toxic and caustic and damaging to someone's character. Look what happened to the captain of the Proteas. A man, because of bigots and racists and black supremacists, was targeted because he was white. He was a premier, outstanding cricket player and the captain of the team, and called a racist. Because they didn't like who was selected for the team. But the best players were picked for the team. And for 2 years, those allegations laid out there. Every news article said, he's a racist, he's a racist, he's a racist. And in fact, in the end, when someone finally got around to doing an investigation, which was silly, there's no different investigation, but they did an investigation, they determined, an Indian and a black judge, that of course, that he's not a racist. He made picks based on merit. But that's what's in the media. That's what's in the record now. You go back and look at it and says, this guy's a racist. And for those with the inability to do critical thinking, that's what lays on the ground. Now, unfortunately, forever, because of the press coverage of this, because of what happened during the game, because of England's juvenile decision to file a complaint without even talking to South African Rugby Union for clarity on this issue before the clock ran out, forever, this false allegation now is associated with Bongi Mbonambi. And so therefore, Bongi has every right to speak about it whenever he wants and tell people this is bullshit. This is fedcock. This is horse manure. And so good on Bongi for saying something, but is it wise to talk about it? That's something for Bongi to decide. But I will say that, don't throw some bigotry out of your own and say, well, just because they're English, they think everybody speaks English. You don't know that. That's silly, Bongi, but appreciate where you're coming from. But calling them unprofessional, 100%, well done, Bongi Mbonambi. This is the world that we live in, folks. I mean, Bongi Mbonambi seems like a really cool guy. I've never met him. I've heard him interviewed a few times. Seems really down to earth, grounded in who he is, and doesn't seem like the kind of person would ever make such a stupid. Even anger, I'd be a little surprised if Bongi Mbonambi called somebody a foul, profane word in any language, let alone Afrikaans. But anyway, that's the thing. So Steve Borthwick should be ashamed of himself, saying that Tom Curry didn't get a fair hearing. What hearing should Tom Curry get? Do they want to pursue this? Would England like to come forward and say the evidence we have is Tom Curry himself. He didn't get a chance to speak to the disciplinary committee about what he says Bongi said. Why isn't the English Rugby Union commenting on the fact that, well, okay, we've heard this counterclaim that it was an Afrikaans and we misunderstood, but we've listened to it. It's quite clear. That's what he said. They're not doing that. So will the story go away? Well, the World Cup is over. We're into the United Rugby Championship season. We're into the French Pro 14 and Premier League. All that's coming. So until some big headlines come there, or Eddie Jones signs with a club somewhere, I suspect that we're going to hear stories like this to continue. Again, is it clickbait? Well, I suppose you could say that. But why am I covering it? For views? Sure. No, I'm covering it because sitting out here in the sun getting baked in a fall day. I'm covering it because it's in the news. And look, I stand behind Bongi Mbonambi. Oh, wait, you can't do that. You're a white guy. You're supposed to be a racist. You can't support Bongi Mbonambi. That goes against all of the stories we tell people. Yeah, well, I do. I support Bongi on this. And I'll accept that it was Afrikaans and that they misunderstood. I mean, looking at what's going on in the game, the body motions don't really support, I mean, anyway. But here we are talking about it, and it's good that we talk about it. It's good that Bongi stepped up for himself. He manned up and said, "Hey, But again, unprofessional. That's a great thing to say about them, the England Rugby Union, and that's where I lay the blame, folks. Where do you lay the blame? You can leave a comment behind. You can say something in chat here if you like for other viewers, or leave a comment after the video and say, "Hey, I blame Bongi." I'd be surprised if many of you do. I blame Tom Curry for his lack of professionalism, going up to the official and whining about it instead of going to his team captain, Owen Farrell, and telling Farrell to say something to the official. What do we do? Or do you blame Saru for not coming out and defending? Because Saru didn't come out and defend Bongi initially. They just said they were behind him. They're not the ones. It was fans. It was fans, ladies and gentlemen. It was supporters of the Springboks who listened to the audio and said, no, wait a second. Time out. Stop the clock. That's not what he said. Listen to this. It's Afrikaans. Vitkan. That's what he said. So it was actually fans and supporters and analysts and pundits in the rugby sphere, not World Rugby, not South African Rugby Union, who actually defended Bongi initially. Now, South African Rugby Union said they're behind Bongi, but they did not come out. Come out and defend him the way that fans did, mostly white fans. But anyway, every fan who's a fan of Bongi Mbonambi defended him. But anyway, so that's kind of where we sit on that, folks. I mean, that's the reality there. So, yikes. Bongi Mbonambi still got this floating around. Not really, but talk about somebody who was excited. When he came back at the airport and then on the trophy tour, Bongi Mbonambi had to be the most excited Springbok there was for winning that World Cup, the second one in a row. It's unbelievable. He played a big role there after Malcolm Marx went out. And that's kind of sad. Two things really for me are disappointing in the World Cup. Thrilled that South Africa won. It's fantastic. It's great to see them win back-to-back. Of course, a Springboks fan. What else would I say? But two things. The injury to Malcolm Marx, which took him out of the tournament, really ruined what would have been the most impressive performance by a hooker in a World Cup ever, potentially. He was just doing brilliant in the World Cup, and would have made the so-called dream team, or as we call it, the Dream On team, full of players who didn't get out of the quarterfinal. 15 players on the dream team, 10 of them are on France and Ireland who didn't get out of a quarterfinal. Anyway, just saying. So the fact that Malcolm Marx wasn't able to finish the World Cup, that was huge. And then the Springboks were able to carry on without him. Shows you how team is important over individual in a game like rugby. And then the other one that was really disappointing is that well, yeah, I'll let that one go. Yeah, but that's really disappointing. Oh, I'm sorry. The other one is there's two things. So Malcolm Marx, and then the other one that's really, really, truly disappointing in all this, folks, of course, is that Lukan Yuam didn't get on the pitch in this World Cup. He was injured. They brought him up when they needed another replacement. He got on the roster. He trained with players, but never got on the pitch. That kind of sucks. He'll get a medal for being on the team, but I really wish that he could have got in the game at least for 10 or 15 minutes and been on the pitch in this World Cup. That would have been awesome. He's the best in the world at his position, and not seeing Lukan Yuam on the pitch was very disappointing for me. That, of course, is not Lucan Yuam's fault. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles, and that's unfortunate. But that's the two things disappointed me most in this World Cup. And then, aside from what I hope to happen, the thing that disappointed me the most, two things that disappointed me most in this World Cup, had to do with France's hosting of it in the middle of the freaking, the sun. It was almost 40 degrees Celsius, and it was brutal in France for the first 2 weeks. But no, France did a pretty good job, but that was kind of annoying. And then the officiating, which everyone's been complaining about, including Nigel Owens. Nigel Owens complaining about the officiating in this World Cup. Even Nigel Owens complaining about it. So, look, for those who say people should stop whinging about officiating in the Rugby World Cup, okay, sure, people should stop whinging, okay. I think people have a right to complain about officiating when Nigel Owens is complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's one of the most famous officials in the history of World Rugby. Him, Jonathan Kaplan, of course, Wayne Barnes now. But Nigel Owens is doing videos complaining about the quality and writing op-eds complaining about the quality and saying we should get rid of the bunker, yada, yada, yada. When Nigel Owens complains, I think everyone else who wants to complain has a right to complain about this. Just put that in perspective. Nigel Owens is the guy. He's also the guy that does his little whistle, whatever they call it, those videos, and he does it for World Rugby. And that's who's paying him. And he's criticizing World Rugby officiating. So I think that World Rugby needs to hold a disciplinary hearing, a la for Rassi Erasmus. And after seeing Nigel Owens' op-ed denigrating officials, and I think that Nigel Owens should get a 12-month suspension from making videos about World Rugby. Oh, also, one more thing. A disappointment here, the cheekiness of World Rugby to fraudulently make claims on content produced by individuals that had no content from World Rugby and giving strikes to individuals. My Rugby Ascendant channel got a strike for a video that I recorded with my voice, with my vision, with my face on it, not with World Rugby on there. And they had the audacity, because I sat at a World Rugby game and did it, and claimed it was their content, gave me a strike. That is just juvenile and idiotic. This is an organization that can't help but undermine the game in every respect. Someone just gave me $2 New Zealand. I can't read what that says. My apologies. I can't read what that says. I do apologize for that. Something's the best. All Blacks. Oh, the All Blacks are still the best. Okay. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not what the scoreboard says. Are we going to get into? I think it's just having a little friendly statement there. But yeah, you can say the All Blacks are the best, but that's not what the last two World Cups have told us. Yes, I know they won the Rugby Championship. Whoop-de-doo. The 3-game Rugby Championship. That's like saying the Bulls won the Super Rugby in 2009. Okay, good. I'm happy Victor Matfield, John Smith won, but it doesn't do much for the price of coffee today. Anyway, but seriously, yeah, no, yeah. All Blacks, and that's the one refreshing thing about all this, folks, is that All Blacks supporters, Springbok supporters, by and large, and I say overwhelmingly, obviously there's a few idiots here and there who make stupid comments, and I'm not referring to the gentleman who just gave the super chat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who say nasty things about either side or this side or that. But by and large, the vast majority, overwhelming preponderance of information out there on social media posts, on articles posted online, responses to them from Kiwi fans, from Springbok fans, has been mutual respect. And that's awesome. That's really great, because that's what rugby is. This stupid nonsense going on with this allegation in Tom Curry and Bongi Mbonambi, the way the England Rugby Union handled it, that's just, we got another one there? I have, what's that? Sorry. I have no shame losing South Africa. Okay, yeah, exactly, the entity. Yeah, exactly, no shame losing, and there's no shame losing the All Blacks unless you do it like we did in Auckland. Oh, gosh. That was terrible. In the Rugby Championship, I mean, I'm watching the Springboks players standing there with like cinder blocks attached to their legs, just watching All Blacks run by them. No defense whatsoever in the first 20 minutes. And then it came back, but it was too late. The game was over in the first 20 minutes, giving up 3 tries. Oh, it was terrible. But, Twickenham was sweet revenge, sweet, sweet revenge. The largest ever defeat for the All Blacks in the history of the club, well over a century. And they've never been defeated by so many points. So, yeah, no, it's great that you're a big supporter of the All Blacks, and for all the All Blacks fans around the world, that's pretty awesome. And for all the French, their bad behavior in the final, the French who booed the All Blacks, then they all show up wearing black jerseys in the World Cup, cheering on the All Blacks and booing every time that Andre Ballard went to the tee to kick. I mean, that's just childish because they lost to the Springboks. But whatever, their feelings are hurt. I suppose they have a right to feel aggrieved that they paid 400 euros for a seat at the Stade de France. Anyway, yeah, so there you have it, folks. That's the story there. But yeah, thank you for the super chats. 2 New Zealand dollars. Let's see. In US, that's what, a good 12 or 15 cents, right? Oh, the friendly banter there with our Kiwi friend. Thank you for that, Anthony, for both of the super chats. We haven't had Kiwi dollars in a long time. Yeah. Anyway, oh my goodness, somebody's moving to the house next to mine. They're out here banging trash. It's early in the morning. No idea what's going on over there. Anyway. Yeah, no, but the mutual respect for Kiwi and Springbok fans is awesome. Meanwhile, the abhorrent, juvenile, childish behavior of French fans has been very disappointing, and that of England. But there is a segment of both of those fan bases, and people would say the same thing of South African fan bases, that always behave poorly. You know, men behaving badly, and women for that matter, but you know, that was a TV show, men behaving badly. Yeah, no, there's always a segment, and the sour grapes, the salty. So I did wear a shirt today under this. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see. Let's see if we can get it up there. Oh, hang on a second here. It's not going to go down my lower, so there you go. Don't be a salty biatch. Don't be a salty biatch. And that's what I say to the people whose feelings are hurt, or bomb hurt that England lost, that France lost. Get over it. There's another World Cup coming up, and we'll see how you do there. But I do have empathy for French fans. This was arguably the best team that France ever fielded in a World Cup. They had been the most consistent side, more consistent than Ireland. Ireland was the world number one, but they were, I think, an illegitimate world number one, as I said all along. I mean, they were suspect, and I said it all along. People didn't believe me. I said, watch the games. If you watch the games, and I did, I watched the games when they beat the Springboks, when they beat France, when they beat New Zealand. In those games, with the exception maybe of the France game, but in the other games, Ireland won their games less because of Ireland's defense and Ireland's style and Ireland's performance, and more because other teams make mistakes. Listen, when your opponent drops the ball without being hit and knocks it on, that's not because of your great play. It could be, I suppose you make them nervous, put in position, but when your opponent's making mistakes because they're playing poorly and you take advantage of it, you win, good on you. You're a team that wins, but it doesn't make you a better team. And that's why I said all along Ireland was suspect. And yeah, were it not for blind as a bat Ben O'Keefe's inability to see Buni Aki lift, I think it was Jesse Creel, up and collapse a maul a meter from the try line, 2 meters from the try line, when I was on the other end of the stadium, seated in the top row of the stadium, and I saw that. I didn't know it was Buni Aki because I couldn't see his number, that far. You can just see the player doing it. When I could see it from that far, and then you see the video, I've got the still image of blind as a bat Ben O'Keefe standing right there, watching it happen, and he doesn't call a penalty try, or at least a penalty, but it should have been a penalty try. It prevented a try from going in. And then South Africa loses that game. But South Africa deserved to lose the game. Their game plan was atrocious. Their performance was terrible. Of course, we missed a lot of points from the tee between Faf and Monty Libbok. But the bottom line is that South Africa made stupid decisions in that game against Ireland. In the last minutes, the waning minutes, it was the 68th, 69th minute. We got a penalty 18 meters away, and you're thinking, okay, you're trailing, okay. So it's would they have any points that the Springboks have? They wound up losing 13-8. I don't know. Anyway, but the point is that they could have kicked that penalty and they would have won the game. They would have won the game. It's 13-8, I think that's the final score. Is that what 13? Anyway, if they'd taken that penalty, which was easily makeable, even for Faf to make it, it was 18, 20 meters away, almost not that big an angle. They could have taken those points, and it would have been 11-8. That's what it was. They would have been up 11-8. It would have been 11-8. Yeah. Something like. Anyway, they would have won the game, because then Ireland would have been behind pressure, but they didn't do it. They made a bad decision. But anyway, enough of that. But don't be salty biatches just because your team lost. I was really, really not thrilled with 2015 when South Africa, in my view, was cheated out of a game they lost 2018. They should have won, and they should have gone on to the final. But you get over it. We didn't complain about the officials. We didn't attack players. We just sucked it up, buttercup, and moved on. Scotland who was clearly disappointed with the game. That unfortunately Craig Joubert made a call, and it turns out it was a wrong call, but what a great official, so not on him. But Scotland was definitely done wrong in that quarterfinal, in which Australia got the penalty, which they shouldn't have got. They kicked it and they won the game. And Scotland should have gone through to a semifinal in 2015, and they didn't get it. But you didn't see Scotland's players out roasting their opponents and acting the way that some English and some French fans have behaved. Most of their supporters are good people. But anyway, all right, folks. Thanks a lot for being here. I didn't realize we went past 30 minutes. I didn't want to go past 30 minutes. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I'll be doing a news program here a little bit later. And then, of course, later today, I'm on with Ronaldo Khus for Wednesdays with the Colonel. And then this afternoon, evening for South Africans at 8 o'clock, it'll be 1 o'clock here. Is that right? 1 o'clock here. Yeah, because it's 7 hours now. And it'll be 8 o'clock in South Africa. Dumbo Denga will be joining me for Kenako. We'll talk about relevant issues in South Africa, just like I'll do with Ronaldo, but a little different approach there. We'll see who else joins me. I don't know if Coquette's is going to make it or not, but we'll see you there. So feel free to join me for my news broadcast, which will be probably an abbreviated one, maybe just an hour instead of an hour and a half, then with Ronaldo on his program at Ronaldo Khus, and then finally for Kenako. Thanks a lot, everybody. Be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. Not many likes coming in. Thanks for the super chat revenue from New Zealand. Actually, you know, the two of them together, the $4 comes out at $2.38 US according to YouTube. But their exchange rate is not a good one. So, and then from that 238, YouTube is going to take 30%. That makes that 65 cents less. That takes us down to 165. From 165, the federal government will take 28% of that. So that takes us down another 40 cents. That takes down about $1.20 of that 228. So we're down to almost half of that money that came in. And then the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will take another 3%. That takes me down to about $1.25. Anyway, folks, yeah, so thanks a lot. Appreciate the super chats, and you guys take care, and thanks to everybody around the world for your support. Appreciate it. Catch me a little bit later for the news program, Chris Wyatt Reports, and don't forget Wednesdays with the Colonel on Ronaldo Khus program at 7 p.m. South Africa time, and then finally my last program on this platform for today will be Kenako at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 o'clock in South Africa, 7 o'clock in Europe, and 6 o'clock in the British Isles. Cheers, everybody. Bye bye, dankie. Merci mille fois. Vielen Dank. À tout à l'heure. Cheers.